Sermon 6, The Righteousness of Faith by John Wesley. Chapter 2. Number 1. These things consider it would be easy to show as I postpone to do in the second place the folly of trusting in the righteousness which of the law, and the wisdom of submitting to the righteousness which is of faith. The folly of those who still trust in the righteousness which is of the law, the term of which are, do this and live, may avauntedly appear from hence. They set out alone. Their very first step is a fundamental mistake, for before they can be ever think of the claiming any blessing on the term of the covenant, they must support themselves to the end his state with whom this covenant was made. But how vain in the superstition is this, since he was made with Adam's in a state of innocence. How weak, therefore, must that holy building be, which stand on such a foundation, and how fully are they who trust the building on the sand, who seemed never to have considered that the covenant of work was not given to man when he was dead in the trespasses and the sins, but when he was alive to God, when he knew no sin, but was holy as God is holy, who forget that it was never designed for the recovery of the favors and the life of God once lost, but only for the continuance and the increase thereof, till it should be the complement in the life everlasting. 2. Neither do they consider who are thus seeking to establish their own righteousness which is of the law, one manner of obedience, or the righteousness that is, which the law and indispensability require. It must be to perfect and entire in every point, or it answered not the demand of the law, but which of you is able to perform such obedience, or consequently to live thereby, who among you purpose every jot and titles, even all of the outward commandments of God, doing nothing great or small, which God forbid, leaving nothing undone which he enjoined, speaking no either the word, having your conversation always meet to minister the grace to the hearer. And whenever you eat or drink or whatever you do, doing it all to the glory of God. And how much less are you able to fulfill all the inward commandment of God, there which require that every temper and motion or your soul should be holiness unto the Lord? Are you able to love God with all your heart, to love all mankind as your own soul, frail without ceasing, in everything to give thanks, to have God always before you, and to keep every affection, the desire, and the thought in obedience to his law? 3. You should further consider that the righteousness of the Lord require not only the obeying every command of God, negative and positive, internal and external, but likewise in the perfect degree. In every instance, whatever the voice of the law is, thou shalt serve the Lord thy God with all thy strength. In always to abstain of any kind, it was excused no defect. It condemned every coming the should of the pure measure of the obedience, and immediately the pronounce of cures on the offender. It regarded all an invaluable rule of justice, and said I know not to show mercy. For who then can fear before such a judge who is extreme to mark what is done amiss? How wicked are they who desire to be tried, the all that barred where no pressure living can be justified. None of the offspring of Adam for the support who did not keep every commandment with all our strength. Yet one single branch, whichever was, ultimately destroyed our who claimed to life. If we have ever offended in any one point, that righteousness is at end. For the Lord condemned all who do not perform uninterrupted, as well as perfect obedience. So then, according to the sentence of this, for him who had once sinned, in any degree, there remained only a fearful looking for our feared indignation, which shall differ all the adversary of God. 5. Is it not that the very the poorness of folly? For a man to seek life by the righteousness for man who was shapen in wickedness and in sin, did his mother conceive him, man who is by nature always censored, devilish, altogether corrupt and abomination, in whom till he find grace, dwelled no good thing, nay, who cannot to of himself think one God sought, one good sought, who is indeed all sin, a mere lump of ungodliness, and who would commit sins in every branch that he draw, whose actual transgression in word and deed are more in the number than the hair of his head. What stupid, what sensibility must it be for such an unclean guilt, happiness, the one as this, to dream of sinking acceptance by his own righteousness, of living by the righteousness which is of the law. 6. Now the whatever consideration prove the glory of dressing and the righteousness which is of the law, prove the equality, the wisdom of the submitting to the righteousness which is of God by faith. This word is to be shown with regard to each of the preceding consideration, but to waste this the wisdom of the first step hero, though disclaiming our own righteousness, framing a fear from the hands, that is, acting according to the truth, to the real nature of sins. For what is it more than to acknowledge with our heart as well as lips the truth straight whereas we are, but not acknowledge that we bring with us into the world of a crooked, sinful nature, more corrupt indeed that we can easily conceive or find a word to express, that hereby we are prone to all that is evil, that it averts from all that is good, that we are falling over pride, self-will, or lowly passions, the poorest desire, the beard, and the inobedience, the affection, the lover of the law, lover of pleasure, the more than lover of God, that our lives have been no better than our heart, but many ways ungodly and unholy. Insomuch that our actual sins first in the world and indeed have been as in the stars of heaven over multitudes, that on this account we are displeasing to him who is all pure eyes than to behold in iniquities, and deserved nothing from him than for the indignation and the wrath and the death. There's ways of a thing that we cannot, but any of our righteousness, for indeed we have none at all, nor by any our works. For there are as the trees from which they grow, appears the wrath of God, or about the punishment we have justified deserve. Yet that was left to ourselves. We assert only works, the laws and the words, and sink deeper and deeper into sin. Offend God more and more verse with our evil works and with the evil tempers of the carnal mind, till we fear what the measures of our iniquity, and bring up ourselves swift the destruction, and is not the very state where is by nature we are to acknowledge this, then the verse with our heart and the lips. That is to describe our own righteousness, and the righteousness which is of the law is to acting according to the real nature of the things, and the consequence is instant or the truth of wisdom. 7. The wisdom of starving to the righteousness of faith, a fierce father, from the consideration that is the righteousness of God, I mean here. It is that the mass of the reconciliation and the God which had been chosen and established by God himself, not only as he is the God of the wisdom, but as he is the sovereign Lord of the heaven and in earth, and of every creature which he hath made. Now, as it is not meet for man to say unto God, What dost thou? As none who is not utterly void or understanding will continue to wed the one that is mightier than he, with him whose kingdom the lose of all. So it is a truth of wisdom, it is a mark of sound understanding to acquaint us in whatever he has chosen to say is this, as in all things it is the law, let him do what seems to him good. 8. It may be further considered that it was a mere grace of free love over undeserved mercy that God hath brought safe to sinful man, anyway of reconciliation with himself, that we were not killed always from his hand, and unburdering out of the remonstration. Remembrance, and therefore, whatever mass he is pleasing to appoint of his tender mercy, or his armored in godliness, whereby his enemies, who had so deeply delivered from him, so long as abstaining or living against him, may straight find favor and his sight. It is a doubting reasonable wisdom to accept it with all the desperateness. 9. To mention the but one of the consideration more, it is wisdom to aim at the vast end by the best means. Now the vast end which any creature can declare person is happiness in God, and the vast end of the fallen creature can pursue is the recovery of the favor and the image of God, but the best, indeed the only, measure under heaven given a man, whereby he may regain the favor of God, which is better than the life itself, or image of God, which is the true life of the soul. It is a submitting to the righteousness, which is of faith, the believing and the only begotten Son of God. Chapter 3. Number 1. Whosoever divide those art for the desirous to be forgotten and reconciled to the favor of God. Do not say in the heart, I must first do this, I must first conquer the every sin, breaking off every evil word and work, and do all good to all men. Or I must first go to church, receive the Lord's Supper, hear the more sermons, and say any more prayers. Alas, my brother, thou art screened gone out of the law way. Thou art the still ignorance of the righteousness of God, and art seeking to establish thee own righteousness as ground of thy reconciliation. Knowest thou not that thou canst do nothing but sin, till thou art reconciled to God? Wherefore then dost thou say, I must do this and this first, and then I shall believe? Nay, first believe in the Lord Jesus Christ, the propitiation for the sins, that this good foundation first to be laid, and then thou shalt do all things well. 2. The need say in the heart, I cannot be accepted yet because I am not good enough. Who is good enough? Whosoever was to merit acceptance of God's hands? Was ever any child of Adam's God good enough for this? Or were any tears to consummations of all things? And as for thee, thou art not good at all. There dwells in this no good things, and thou never will be, till thou believe in Jesus, whether thou wilt find thyself the worse and worse. But is there any need or being worse, in order to be accepted? Art thou not bad enough already, and that thou art, and that God know, and thou thyself canst not deny it, then deride that all things are not ready. Rise and wash away these sins. Thus found is often now is the time to wash there the while is the blood of the Lamb. Now he shall purge these as will himself, and thou shalt be clean. He shall wash thee, and thou shalt be whiter than the snow. 3. Do not say, but I am not contrite enough. I am not sensible enough of my sins. I know it. I would be God, those who were no more sensible of them, the more the contrite a thousandfold than thou art. But do not stay for this, and maybe God will make this so, not be proved thou believest, but by believing. It may be thou wilt not wicked much till thou lovest much, because thou hast had much forgiven. In the meantime, look unto Jesus. Behold, how he loved them. What can he have done the more for this which he had not done? All realm of God was ever fain, was ever love like times. Look standing of the him that he looked on thee, and break thy hard heart. Then shalt thee the heart had be waters, and these eyes found our tears. For not yet do thou say, I must do something more before I come to Christ. I grant, supposing that the Lord should delay his coming. It was meet and delight to waiting for his appearing and doing. So fies thou hasted for time the whatsoever he had commanded thee. But there is no necessary for the making such a supposition. How knowest thou that he will delay? Perhaps he will appear as the day the spring from the on high, the before the morning light, Oh, do not set him all the time, expect him the every hour. Now he is night, even at the door. 5. And to what end? The order is doubt waiting for the more sensibility. Before it die, since I'd behold out to make these more the law of the grace of God, unless thou art still established by the only righteousness, he will have mercy, not because thou art worthy of it, but because his compassion for not, not because thou art righteous, but because Jesus Christ had atoned for these sins. Again, if there were any, if gain anything good in the sincerity, why dost thou expect it people thou hast for? His face, seeing face itself, is the only look of the whatever is really good and holy. Above all, how long wilt thou forget that whatever thou doest, or the whatsoever thou hatest? Before the sins are forgiven thee, it availed nothing. With God towards were proclaiming of these forgiveness. Yeah, and that it must all be casing be behind the debacked, tempered, underput, made no count of, or that thou wilt never find favor in God's sight, because unto them thou canst not ask it, as the mere sinner guilt lost undone, having nothing to fear, nothing to offer to God, but only to meet of his well-beloved Son, who loved thee and gave himself for thee. 6. To conclude, whoever thou art, a man who has a sentence of death in thyself, who feelest in thyself a condemned sinner, and hast the word the lens of God abiding on thee, unto thee say to the Lord not to do this. Perfect obeyed all my commands, and live, but believe in the Lord Jesus Christ, and thou shalt be saved. The word of faith is nigh unto thee. Now, at this instant, in the present moment, and indeed the present state, as thou art, just as thou art, believe the gospel, and I will whisper unto thee unrighteousness, and the iniquity will I remember no more.